in the person of Mensa Thompson, Executive Director of ASEPA, to give us the welcome address. Thank you very much. He's making his way. Another hand of applause to him. A young man, but very energetic, talented.
Forgive me if I have the presidential height. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you, well-meaning Ghanaians, civil society organizations, political actors, and all major stakeholders in our electoral process into this maiden forum by the Coalition of CSOs for Good Governance. Over the past few weeks, since the Electoral Commission announced its intention to compile a new voters register, the issue has become very contentious. Recently, at an IPAC meeting, which I was present, some major political parties saw the need to boycott that particular meeting and to make their concerns known to the media. This has drawn the attention of a lot of political actors and stakeholders in our governance process to raise concern on whether the EC, based on the reasons that they've given, is justified or not. This program has been put together mainly to open up the conversation. If you ask me, I don't think it's a coalition of CSOs who should be organizing this forum. I think it should have been the Electoral Commission organizing a forum like this to solicit the views and the inputs of the people of Ghana and inputting them in their decision-making. Unfortunately, the Electoral Commission have not lived up to that expectation. And so we civil society organizations saw the need to fill that gap and to make sure that we open up this conversation for each and every one of us to be able to participate in making this particular decision on whether we need a new voters register in the build-up of the 2020 elections. So today, our mission here is very simple. We are going to look at this decision by the EC to procure a new biometric system that will lead to the compilation of a new voters register, whether it is financially wise for the EC to do so, whether it is technically feasible considering the time frame and many other factors that affect our electoral process. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to use this opportunity to acknowledge members of the coalition of CSOs who have come together to put such a forum together. And I'll start by, we have the ASEPA Ghana, which is part of this coalition. We have the Community Focus Foundation, which is also part of this coalition. We have the Grassroots Mobilizers Network. We have the Governance Watch. We have the Swiss Angel Foundation. We have the Positive Thinkers Foundation. We have the CDG Ghana. We have the Chamber of Local Governments. We have the Muslim Youth Association. We have the Coalition for Peace and Development, and then Africa Center for Peace Building. There are several others. When they are present here, we will also acknowledge them. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to use this opportunity to welcome all of you once again to this important forum, and I hope that after today, we'll be able to make an informed decision whether indeed we need a new voter register or not. And we have made a pledge that considering the input of the experts and what the experts are going to tell us today, the analysis that they are going to do, if it turns out that we really need a new voters register, we are going to be up and support the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register. If it turns out otherwise, we have no option than to advocate for a no and do a no campaign and to bring this whole decision by the EC to a halt like we did in the referendum. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again for your participation. Thank you.
Another hand of applause to him. just to inform you that this program is being carried live by a number of media stations. It's being carried live by Joy FM, TV3, TV SYZ, Home Base TV, Metro TV, Class FM, Accra FM, and Power FM. And I can also say that there are some political parties being invited here. I can see some representatives of political parties here. And I would like to acknowledge the NDC. NDC is here. And as the program goes on, if you are here as a political party, please let us know. And we will acknowledge your presence as the norms. And the program continues. We will be calling the first speaker to make his presentation. And the person... Apology. We can see PNC also here. A big apology. That is a treasonable offense. But I hope that the chairman will forgive me. We can also see PNC here. PNC is also in our midst. CPP is also here, and some other political parties. So we are in for the first presentation. Do we have EC here? EC is supposed to give us the first presentation. EC, Electoral Commission representative, is supposed to give us the first presentation. Do we have them here? Please. Okay. So we skip them. Then the second presentation will be done by the Mr. Bernard Mona. That is the Inter-Party Coalition Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much. Yes, we had our MC, but our MC was a bit late. So please, let's give a round of applause to him. He's tried. He was just filling this for us. Please, it's not easy. Okay, so we invited the Electoral Commission. We invited the New Patriotic Party. We know that it's the Electoral Commission that has taken the decision to compile a new register. We invited the Electoral Commission to come over and to tell us why they think we need a new voters register. So if the representative of the Electoral Commission is here, he is up for the first presentation, please. So if we have the rep of the Electoral Commission, please. Can we have the rep of the EC? Please, as soon as the rep of the EC comes, we'll give him the opportunity to make his presentation. Yes, they are aware. In fact, I personally made the invitation available to the deputy chairman of the EC, so they are aware of the program. So as soon as they come, we'll give them the opportunity to make their presentation. But for now, we'll take the first presentation from the chairman of the PNC, Comrade Bernard Mona.
Choboi. Unfortunately, my height is above presidential height. I needed to adjust the mic a little bit so that I can talk to all of you. First and foremost, I recognize all of you here. You are all dignitaries, and therefore no specific mentioning of names will be done. I also want to thank the organizers of this forum for the opportunity to be speaking here. I also want to state that, as said by the Executive Director of ASEPA, these forums or forums such as this should have been organized by the Electoral Commission to ensure that they are able to bring all Ghanaians on the same page so that we can understand or refuse to understand the rationale behind their attempt to create a new voters register. Failing to do so, they have also failed to appear at this program. What it means is that they are running away. But we will catch them. It doesn't matter where they run to. If they run to the rocks, we'll meet them there. If they dive into the sea, we will be inside there with them. I also recognize that a lot of media houses are here, and I've been checking to see the state broadcaster here. It appears that if my eyes are right, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation is missing. They cannot be against the citizens of our nation. They should be for us. This forum is an important forum to bring all the issues surrounding the perfidy of the Electoral Commission and that of our government, so that our nation can wake up to whether we need to sacrifice so much resources for an exercise, in my opinion, that is useless. The state broadcasters' refusal to be here means that they are against the citizens and not for the nation. This is not the way state broadcasting should be done. They must take citizens' input and compare with that of the government, and at the end of the day, the people will determine where to go. First, let me state without any doubt, does Ghana really need a new voters register? No! The Electoral Commission itself, by word and by action, has stated that we don't need a new voters register. I cannot understand why, therefore, they are going ahead with their decision to do a new voters register. Let me give you a little genesis of this whole exercise. The Electoral Commission, for instance, went into the market, bought a material, and then they went to a tailor and they sewed the cloth into something to wear. After that, they started looking for the size or the person that should wear the material to go and take his measurement. That is what the Electoral Commission has done in this particular instance. Long before today, at an IPAC meeting, the Electoral Commission, after we had deliberated on the local level elections, and we had also deliberated on the referendum to create the new regions, we came to some conclusions on those particular items. We left the Electoral Commission, and when the Electoral Commission was issuing a statement on the decisions we took at IPAC, they added that political parties decided on the need for a new voters register. That was a lie. We all came out, including the New Patriotic Party, and said that no such item was discussed. It was not part of the agenda. At the end of the day, the records of the Electoral Commission had to be amended to reflect the true discussions that took place at the IPAC. That should tell you that the Electoral Commission had planned from their bedroom that they were going to have a new voters register before an IPAC meeting, which had no discussion on a new voters register. Fast forward, the Electoral Commission again called political parties to an emergency IPAC meeting, only for political parties to get there, and it was an issue of a new voters register that was brought. As we protested and we demanded the rationale for a new voters register, the next emergency IPAC meeting was called, and at that point, the Electoral Commission introduced 4 vendors that they had sourced to what they describe as to demonstrate how the new biometric register or devices are going to work. The political parties rightly boycotted the processes and moved out. Demands for the Electoral Commission to provide reasons for which we should do a new voters register came later. And one of the reasons they gave is that they don't house the data by themselves, and that no Ghanaian company, including the Electoral Commission, houses the data of the Electoral Commission. Granted that that is true, the 4 companies that the Electoral Commission shortlisted for this exercise, which one of them is a Ghanaian company? None is a Ghanaian company, and therefore they can collect the data and store the data away from the Electoral Commission. And so the argument that data is not stored and kept by the Electoral Commission is the basis for which we should have a new voters register cannot be sustained by the arguments they are making. The other reason are engaged in menial jobs, and that over the past 7 years, our fingerprints have worn out, and that the biometric devices will not be able to capture. Let's say that it is true. So after this exercise, will people stop working in the farms? Will we stop pulling our nets at the sea? Will we stop working at the fitting shops? Menial jobs will continue. So the argument that because we are engaged in menial jobs, our fingerprints cannot be recognized by the devices cannot also sustain. Then the Electoral Commission said that recently they claim that the voters' material or register is bloated. Now, leading to the referendum, the Electoral Commission said that the voters' register was credible. And because the voters' register was credible, we went ahead to create 6 new regions out of 10 regions that were in existence. We are told that the machines functioned perfectly, that the turnout was almost 98%. So it means that the machines are working. And therefore, there is nothing wrong with the machines. Again, just this December, we went to the polls to go and do our district level elections. In that elections, over 6,600 assemblymen and women were elected. Over 33,000 unit committee members were elected. According to CODEO, the machines functioned 98.8%. There was no difficulty with the devices. So these are the things that the Electoral Commission has said. CODEO has come to confirm that the machines worked perfectly. The Electoral Commission, again in the district assembly elections, claimed that the voters' register is very credible, to quote Sami Tete of the Electoral Commission. He said the voters' register is very credible. Now, the question I want to pose is that why is the Electoral Commission interested in changing something they themselves have described as very credible for something whose credibility we don't know? Because the data we have, the voters' register is credible. So there is nothing wrong with the voters' register. So if the voters' register is credible, why change it? It doesn't add up. And so if you have publicly stated that the voters' register is credible, why do you want to spend close to 1 million Ghana cedis, to 1 billion Ghana cedis to procure a new voters' register? Which processes, as we all know, this is 2020. This is the year that political parties are going to be crisscrossing the length and breadth of this country. This is the time that political parties are going to plan their own timetable as to how they will be able to canvass and win votes. The Electoral Commission now wants to take away the political parties' time and make it their time. So we will not get the opportunity to go out there to campaign, because we should be interested in monitoring their exercise and not doing our campaigns. If we don't do our campaigns, the government of the day has won the elections again. That is, in my opinion, the reason why the Electoral Commission wants to hijack all of us and our attention from doing the campaigns that will ensure that the government of the day loses the elections to working for the Electoral Commission and doing their bidding. For those of you who have worked in public sector, it doesn't take 1 month, 2 months to secure procurement. Even if you go to the procurement authority and they grant you the permission to go and acquire the equipment, it will take you a minimum of 2 to 3 months. So what it means is that we are not going to start a new register until after March. Now, when you finish that, you will have to go through another 3 months of now beginning to obtain the information that is getting people to go and register. Once people register, you have to go and test the veracity of the register by ensuring that people go to confirm their names on the register. By the time you finish all these processes, I can assure you we are in September 2020. What will be the time left for the political parties to engage in any meaningful campaign to torpedo the government that has shown incapacity of managing the affairs of our nation? Obviously, the Electoral Commission is planning something sinister. The other thing that all of us must recognize is that if you take the issues one by one, why is it that the Electoral Commission, after all this, when we have flawed one argument upon the other, the Electoral Commission comes to tell us recently that the voters' register is bloated? When has the voters' register never been bloated before? Because one of the reasons for which a voters' register is bloated is that people die. And people who die, their names are still on the voters' register. I am not sure whether the name of J.H. Mensah has been removed from the voters' register. I am not sure whether Vice President Mr. Atter's name has been removed from the register. I am not even sure whether President Ivan Sata Mills, who died, his name has been removed from the register. Of course, my father, who died recently, his name is still on the voters' register. It's obvious that the voters' register will be bloated by the number of dead people whose names are still on the voters' register. Question is, do dead people vote? So if dead people don't vote and their names are on the register, it amounts to nothing, because you must go there to ensure that you verify your identity. And so these people cannot resurrect or cannot come out from their graves to go and vote. So even if their names are still on the register, you can say the voters' register is bloated by the number of deaths that are still on the register. But it's obvious that dead people don't vote. So there is no need to go and start a whole new process. If you think that dead people can vote, on the day that you compile a new register, people will still die. Because we are told that people die in seconds. So somebody can actually go and put his name on the register, and before the person can get home, he or she would have died on the way. Would you start a new registration altogether? So therefore, there cannot be justification to say that because you suspect bloating of the voters' register, it should be the reason for which you should jettison information. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as a young man, I used to have a bank account, and I'm happy that Sylvester Mensah is here. He worked in the bank before. And you used to carry what they call the passbook. You go to the bank, whatever transaction you engage in, the bank will enter in your passbook and also enter in their records. True or false? As the banks migrated from their manual documentation to the computerized and biometric system, I was not called by my bank to come and open a new bank account. What the bank simply did was to transfer all the information in the manual data into their computerized system, and any time that you go to the bank, if they needed any further features, they will capture it. They didn't start a whole new process of registering people in their banks. This is from manual to computerized and to the digital age. If the Electoral Commission cannot synchronize their data, because the data is not rotten, it is the machines that are faulty, so the data is intact. What the Electoral Commission can do is that they synchronize the data from the old or obsolete machines into a current or new machines. They don't need to let us go and start a very laborious process of compiling a new voters' register. Anyone who gets up and say that the cost of synchronizing or migrating data from one gadget to the other is more expensive than going to start a whole process, the person is not a living person, because if you are living, you will understand that it cannot be the case. Many of you have your phones. Many of you have your phones. And you do know that when your phone is misbehaving, as we say in Ghanaian language, or it's not functioning properly, all you do is that you go and buy a better phone, and you come and transfer all the information from the old phone into the new phone. And bingo, you go. If this is rocket science and the Electoral Commission thinks that it is difficult, rocket science is studied in North Korea. We can go there and learn and come and teach them. See, take the current national identification registration that is ongoing. And you go to some communities in the Eastern region. Those of you who know, Eastern region, the kids have not yet arrived there. But some communities in the Eastern region are getting registered on the national identification system. Why? Because some people in power want their people to get registered. If you go to the Upper West region, the equipments were not functioning in Wa Township. You have to travel several kilometers into some communities. And even then, regional ministers and other government appointees have to give you note so that you go and get registered on the national identification system. So deliberately, it will not function in opposition strongholds. But in the government stronghold, these things will function. Now, the argument we want to posit is that if the Electoral Commission insists on doing this exercise and we agree, we can be assured that where I come from, Sankana, where the PNC is strong, there will be 20% functioning of the equipment. But they will give us the same 2 weeks as they will give to other areas. And within 2 weeks, if every day the equipment will function only 20%, then imagine how many people will register in Sankana. But if you go to Tangasia, which is the stronghold of the MPP, you can also be assured that it will have about 90% success level. So if they register more there and we don't register, they have stolen the elections before we even go to the polls. This is what the Electoral Commission wants to embark on. We want the world to understand that we are in for business and that we are serious about the outcome of our elections. The credibility of every election matters as the outcome of that election. And that credibility issues cannot be taken for granted. The fact that there are these suspicions and the fact that the Electoral Commission over the period has indicated that they are not neutral, but that they are part of the government of the day, we cannot allow them to do an exercise in an election year so that we will doubt the outcome of the elections. This Electoral Commission, in their intransigence, want to plunge this nation into calamity. Citizens of this nation are peace-loving people. All we are saying is that we don't want a new voters register because it's a potential for chaos in our nation, and Ghana is a peaceful nation. I have listened very well today, His Excellency, the Vice President. And the Vice President has made no mistake. He said that it will not be long, the national ID card may become a substitute to the voter's ID card. The national ID card processes are ongoing. So why will the Electoral Commission not hasten slowly to allow a successful implementation of the national ID card system, and then we can see whether that ID card will become a substitute. Failing to wait for the national ID card to be completed should tell us that they are in rush to steal our mandate. We will not agree. The last point I want to make is that the 2020 population census are a few months away. Over the period, the convention has been that anytime population census are compiled, it becomes a justification for which a new voters register should be created. Why is the Electoral Commission running ahead of the 2020 population census? The Electoral Commission should wait for the figures of the 2020 population census to be concluded before they can make any attempt at doing a new voters register. If they insist they will do the voters register, the Inter-Party Coalition Against the New Voter Register want to assure you that on Saturday we shall be in Tamale to embark on a massive demonstration to tell the people of the world that we will not agree. We also want to send a message that on the 21st of January, we shall be in the Ashanti Regional Capital to embark on a similar exercise. We shall be in the Greater Accra on the 28th of January to do the first 3 phases of these demonstrations. In between, you may find us at the airport. You may find us at various embassies. You may find us at almost every part of this country picketing to ensure that the Electoral Commission does not take our right. We want to assure the Electoral Commission that if it is about their 10%, the basis for which they want to embark on this exercise because oil must pass through their fingers, this time round, we assure them that they have failed. Comrades, let us all stand up. Let us resist oppressors' rule. Let us ensure that our nation's peace is not compromised. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now that I've moved from the presidential height, I want to use this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of a few dignitaries who are among us here. We have Honorable Desmond Nana Nto, who is the national organizer for the PNC. Let's give him a round of applause. We have Nana Jataba, who is the founder and leader of the UFP. If he's here, let's give him a round of applause. We have Honorable Diana Alose Gla, who is the General Secretary of the Eagle Party. Let's give her a round of applause. We also have in our midst former Ghana's ambassador to India, Ambassador Sampi Yali. We have a top member of the NDC, Honorable Nuruddin Idrisu, also here with us. We also have in our midst the former CEO of the Health Insurance Authority, Honorable Sylvester Mensah. We also have the Deputy Minority Whip in Parliament, Honorable Ahmed, also with us. Let's give him a round of applause. Representing the Parliamentary Caucus. We also have the General Secretary of the NDC, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Johnson Esiedu Ketia, thank you very much for your presence. There are several others. As we have them, we'll introduce them to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on JoyNews. We are live on TV3. We are live on XYZ TV. We are live on Homebase TV. We are live on Metro TV. We are live on GH1. We are live on Class FM. We are live on Accra FM. We are also live on Power FM. Thank you. Once again, let me use this opportunity to also introduce the regional chairman of the NDC, Honorable Adekoka. We also have the Director of Elections of the NDC, Honorable Elvis Efriye Ankra. Once again, I acknowledge the presence of all civil society organizations, the CDD, CODEO, and all other civil society organizations present here. Ladies and gentlemen, this takes us to our next presentation. The man I'm about to introduce is one of the finance guys you'd love to listen to. He holds a PhD from the Clayton State University, Georgia, USA. He has a master's degree in global strategy from Thunderbird School of Global Management, Florida. He has a specialization in global financial crisis from Yale University, USA. He also has a specialization in forensic accounting, fraud examination from the West Virginia University. He also holds specialization certificates in portfolio and risk management from the University of Geneva, Switzerland. He is a member of the following professional bodies: the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, Chartered Accountants Ghana, Chartered Management Consultants Canada, Chartered Management Accountants UK, Chartered Economists Ghana, Association of International Accountants UK. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Dr. Jerry Monfort. Come back.
I think I have a presidential height. I have been told that I have a presidential height. Can you hear me? I've been told I have been told I have a presidential height, and they've given me adjustment to that. So we are looking at the subject. Does Ghana really need a new voters register? Now, there is one thing you should know. Our economy from 2018 to 2020, the private sector consumption rate is falling down. That is to mean that there is no money. Every situation has been very hard, and we cannot use our hard-earned money in paying taxes to go and satisfy some people. I took analysis of it. I listened to Bernard Mona, and when I listened to him, he was asking, why do they need a new voters register? I am going to answer this question, and I will answer this question by this analysis I'm going to tell you. Indeed, somebody has an interest. If they don't have an interest, they wouldn't execute it. Now, let's move on to the next question. Who has it? Good. Move ahead. Good. This is the budget that Electoral Commission presented. And the budget, as you can see, this has got to do with registration budget. And the total is about 390 million Ghanaian cedis. Ask a simple question. What is the benefit of this figure? Now, this is not the only thing. I will explain, and I'll come back to here. Can you give me the next slide? Yeah, move ahead. Good. This is the Biometric Voter Management Solution estimate budget. Okay. This is the Biometric Voter Management Solution estimate budget. These are the items the EC wanted to buy with the money. And this money is about 377 million Ghanaian cedis. Now, the question that you ask yourself is that, when you look at this analysis, you have one, they said that district desktop computers, that is 270 pieces. The next one is monitors, which is 270 monitors. And then the next one are scam cameras or webcam cameras, which is 270. And the last one is printer and scanner. And the other ones are just the BVS machines. The simple question one should ask yourself is that, if you're changing, I am not an IT person, but if you're changing a full IT infrastructure, wouldn't you need servers? There is no servers in this. If you really want to change your entire infrastructure, wouldn't you need processors? With the monitors you're buying, they are not there. Wouldn't you need a wide area network systems? Issues that where are these items and they are not in the budget? You would need to do it. You need to use it. And where are they? Now let's move on. Let me come out with the intentions. Go to the next one. No. Up. No. Yes. Good. Move on. The next. Yeah, okay. This is where I said about something is not really adding up. Yes, move on. Good. Move on to the next one. Now, let me tell you one of the reasons why EC is bent on getting this thing done. When you look at the budget, I have highlighted some figures over there. And one of it is called per diem. Now, if you look at the meetings they are going to hold within a period, they have IPAC meetings, they have RIPAC, they have DPAC. Now, the IPAC, which happened to be possibly held in Accra, which is Inter-Party Advisory Committee being held in Accra, there is nothing there when it comes to per diem. Is there anything there? No. There is nothing there. Good. The bottom line is that if you have the system hub, or if you have the head center here, and you have a program run here, because you are here, you might not be entitled for per diem, isn't it? Good. Now, when you go to the regional level, that is a RIPAC. You have regional offices over there. These regional offices can run the program same as the head office if you give them instruction, isn't it? Good. But here, they would like to move to the region just because they want to take a per diem from that end. And that is costing 106. So the total per diem, per the total number of meetings they are going to have, is 3.2 million cedis. Good. Now, let's move on to the next one. Now, we are looking at recruitment and interviewing. Because they are going for mass registration, it means that they are going to recruit a whole lot of people. And as they're going to recruit a whole lot of people, now you look at the cost centers. When you look at the cost centers, you will realize that the conference package is 8 million. And then per diem alone over there is 2.2 million cedis. The others are not necessary, which are just, when you look at one, we have fuel. A fuel for just the interview is 1.6 million cedis. So you can start to see where the interest is. And when I finish, I'll give you some summaries, and you'll get to understand why EC is bent on this. Now, let's move on to the next. Now, we are looking at monitoring. They say they will be doing monitoring. And could you believe that with monitoring, can you see the red figure over there? How much is that? 60 million is per diem. And that is going to go into the pockets of AC officials. And then they have a conference package, which is just 6 million cedis for a conference they are going to host. Now, let's move on to the next. Now, you realize that the exhibition they're going to do, per diem, for those who are just going to move around, is 3.6 million Ghanaian cedis. And the fuel is 800. Now, let's move on. So now, when you summarize the total per diem that they intend to pick out of this money they have allocated, is 28 million Ghanaian cedis. And let's see who are those entitled for this 28 million cedis. Float, move ahead, let me show you. Well, I have broken it down. No, the summary should come first. Okay, so you're looking at conference package. Move on, the next one. The beneficiaries of the per diem. Who are those going to take this per diem? The commissioner. The next one. The deputy commissioners. Third, the other commissioners. Fourth, headquarters directors. Fifth, headquarters deputy directors. Sixth, senior officers. Headquarters drivers. Regional directors. Deputy regional directors. Regional drivers. And then the district election officers. If you have organization, and the organization is going to make a free money of 28 million cedis in the heart today, is that a small money? No. An average Ghanaian worker take less than 1,000. And if you distribute this among them, somebody would go home with 1 million Ghanaian cedis. This is the reason why EC is saying no. And the point is that if they are saying no, it's not because one has a political party affiliation. It is because it's going against the national budget. Let's move on. Now, let me expose certain things out of the EC's issues. The reason why they are trying to explain themselves very hard to say that we need a new register. And because of that, they organized a press conference. And the press conference was organized in 2019. And according to the EC, letters from the previous vendor dated 19th November 2018. It states in part as follows. We would like to remind you that in 2016 registration, we had in total 47% failure rate for BVRs during the preparation period. This is what the vendor wrote to the EC, and the EC used it in their conference. Now, the press conference continue. Come again. The BVR kits are more than 7 years old and end of life. Now, let's look at this one. Let me just let us know a simple common sense. If you buy a brand new car and they give you a warranty, and the warranty is 3 years, if the warranty ends in 3 years, has the lifespan of your car end? No. Okay, let's go on. Now, please note that the tests were conducted 11 months ago, and this were the consultants. That's HSB and its partners STL. Now, let's move on. There's a contradiction in this one. Let's move on. The first contradiction is in page 4 of the press conference document. It states, and I quote, furthermore, quite a significant number of the BVS and BVRs cannot be repaired. They are saying that it cannot be repaired. Let's go to the immediate paragraph. For the recently ended district level elections, the commission had to refurbish and repair them to get ready for DLE. true is this? Now, let's move on to the next. Statistics that was given by the Electoral Commission. We are looking at the statistics given by the Electoral Commission. They just ended district level election held in 2019. Out of a total number of 5.4 million were successfully verified. Now move on to the next. 34,843 were manually verified. Now let's do a simple calculation. Give me the next flow. This is the interpretation. This means that the margin of error use of the old data and the BVR is just 0.6%. And what is the success rate? Give me the next flow. The success rate is 99.4%. What kind of precision tool will give you 99.5%? This tells you that the fastest, speediest weapon, which is precision tool or precision guided, would not have an accuracy of 99.4. So if you have 99.4%, it means it's 100% accurate to be used for any other election. Now let's move on. Is he, in his attempt, trying to force people to understand that indeed they would need to do a new registration? This is what they decided to do. Move ahead. They gave a comparative analysis. Is he comparing election cost of the previous while understating their own budget? Now move ahead. This is the analysis they gave. They said in 2016, there was a limited voter registration, or a voter registration, 2012, and that costed them 169 million cedis. In 2014-2015, they ran the same program, and it costed them 287. And then in 2016, just because they want to justify why they needed 390, they said in 2016, they spent 487. I think that was the previous commissioner. They spent 487 million to do new registration. Hence, theirs is just 390, and that figure is wrong. The total is 767 million and not 390. So that is quite misleading, and that cannot be a justification as to why they would have to go on doing this on cost basis. Now, let's move on to the next. The economy has a huge financial need gap. It will surprise you to know that the total tax revenue projected is just 10% of our GDP. And total financial needs, which is expected in this country, is just about 20% of the GDP. So if your needs is about 20% and you can afford only 10% to meet up the needs of 20%, how would you be able to manage the economy? And why would you like to waste money on this basis? Let's move on to the next. The crucial areas that demands agents' attention, which the government must pay attention and not to release all this money for the EC, are as follows. One, our healthcare delivery. You can imagine, just give me the next one, you can imagine the situation people are facing in the hospitals. Sleeping on the floors, having no beds. And you are counting of 28 million cedis in somebody's pocket. Couldn't it be enough to acquire about 1,000 beds for these people? Let's move on to the next one. Education. Can you imagine you have the people sitting on the floor like this? And you are looking at we contributing money and putting it in somebody's pocket? Which way do we go? Let's look at the next one. You look at the kind of water. Yes, come up. You look at the kind of water our people are drinking. And we're going to spend almost 1 billion cedis for needless voter registration. I don't agree with this. Let's move on to the next. Now, why do we have to say no to the new voters register? Let me tell you why. Let's move on. Now, their reasons are not convincing. That is one. Two, the purpose is to serve their personal interests and not to the interests of the nation. Three, the public purse would not be prudently managed. Four, the country has better alternative needs than compilation of voters register. The last one that I would have to say is that roll it up, The last one I would have to tell you is that, thank you.
Do we still need a new voters register? Are you sure? We don't need a new voters register? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let me acknowledge that we are live on JoyNews, we are live on TV3, we are live on XYZ, Home-Based TV, Metro TV, Class FM, Accra FM, Power FM, and Ahoto FM. Now that we've looked at the financial implications and the opportunity cost of spending almost $1 billion Ghana cedis to compile a new voters register, let's look at the technical feasibility of compiling a new voters register. And we have here Dr. Thomas Yeboah, who is the Dean of Technology for the Christ Apostolic University, to tell us whether technically it is feasible for the EC to compile a new voters register or not. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My submission here will be based on the technical aspect, whether we really need the voters register. I will further go on by asking, even whether we need the voters register, is it logical? Okay, so I will begin my, I'm a lecturer, so forgive me if my presentation looks like as if I'm lecturing. I'll begin my presentation by considering this story. Okay. What I'm saying is, I'll begin my submission by looking at a story. Now, let me tell you the story. Okay. Yeah, a student went out to his law professor, asking him whether he failed the exams, at least after failing the law exam. So there is a communication between the law professor and the law student after failing the exams. So the conversation between the law professor and the student goes like this. The student said, "Do you really need everything about the law?" As a professor, obviously, she's going to say yes. Yes, I do. Then the student asks the professor, and then I want to ask you a question. If you're able to answer the question, then I will take my marks as it is. The question goes like this. What is legal but not logical? Logical but not legal. And neither logical nor legal. So that is the question the law student asks the law professor. What is legal but not logical? Logical but not legal, and neither logical nor legal. So at the end of the presentation, we are going to see whether the new register is legal or logical or not legal. So that one, after the presentation, you will see it. Now my presentation to answer this question is going to play around 4 main areas. And I'm taking everything from the press conference that the EC had. Number 1, I'm going to look at vendor lock-in syndrome. Number 2, I'm also going to look at the 2-level authentication indicated by the EC, whether the 2-level authentication is good or bad. Number 3, I'm also going to look at outdated software. Even this one is too simple. You are using, let's say, operating system like 2005 or 2008, and the thing is working well for you. I don't see the need why you're supposed to move from. Meanwhile, the thing is performing well. So why then do you need a new operating system? So we are going to look at it. Then the last one will be the BVD, that's biometric voltage devices, BVD or BVR. I want to take you to school small. If you want to talk about the authenticity of a BVD, biometric device, there are two things that you're supposed to consider. Number one, we need to look at FRR and FAR. The FRR is what? False rejection rate. Number two is FAR. That one is a false acceptance rate. Now, so we are going to look at it from these two dimensions. Now, number one, the EC is saying that they are going to go for a two-level authentication. Now, the two-level authentication, according to BBC 2008 or 2018, they indicated that the weakest biometric technology among all the biometric devices is what? It's facial one. If you doubt, meanwhile, I believe we have doubting Thomas here. I can give you the source. So www.bbc.com. You search, you get it. Now, let me take you to school small. The biometric devices, we have seen that the weakest one is the facial authentication or the facial technology. So what is happening is that the EC is now saying that he's going to introduce facial authentication in addition to the fingerprint. Meanwhile, the fingerprint is better than the facial one. So assuming that maybe I'm supposed to be in polling station A, and there's also a polling station B, I know as a fact that I'm supposed to be in polling station A. But I know that if you're a technical person, though I'm supposed to be in polling station A, which I know that if I go to polling station B, automatically the device will reject me. So if that is the case, then I'll move straight to polling station B, which the system is going to reject me. So at the end of the day, after the rejection, the EC is now saying that you should use what? The weak authentication methodology or technology. Now, when you take the facial authentication, it's using geometry. It will just pick maybe from this end to this end in that dimension. So even if the dimensions are okay, in between it will accept the person. And therefore, the facial one is having high FAR, that is false acceptance rate. So after passing through the fingerprint, and we are saying that the fingerprint is not okay, and we are going for the second one, we're supposed to be a more secure one. And now in Ghana here, we are moving from, instead of going for a more secure one, we are now going for a weaker one. So straight away, whether you like it or not, straight away, it will just accept the person. Meanwhile, the person is not the right person. Then the next person, the original person will come. The system will tell the person that, oh, you have already voted, which is also going to create more confusion at the polling station level. So that is why, this is one of the reasons why I'm saying that. Even the EC went on by saying that, okay, let me put that one aside. Now let me move to my point number 2, which is also critical. That one is even critical than this one. And even if they are going, the EC want to go for a new register, this one, no way. You shouldn't accept it. No way, you shouldn't accept it. Now, the one that I'm talking, the second one that I'm talking about is vendor lock-in syndrome. Vendor lock-in syndrome. It was copied from the EC press conference. Now, the idea is that the EC is now saying that they are not having full control over the system. Now the question is very simple. What type of control are they looking for? What type of control are they looking for? Now, the EC went further by saying that they need the source code of what? The software or the system. This is too big. When they got hold of what? The source code, then automatically they can manipulate the system to their taste. Whether NPP, NDC, PPP, or any of the political parties. So, I beg you, stakeholders, try as much as possible to fight for this situation. We don't need to accept the fact that the EC should have access to the source code. It's very wrong. It's very wrong because we just employ somebody to develop the software for us. So once you happen to be a user, then why do you need the source code? Why? Now the EC went further by citing some example from Kenya that during the elections, when they were demanding for a change during the elections, they were not finding the developer. But I believe that the contract was between a company and the EC of what? Kenya. So I don't think why, or I don't know why maybe that one particular person is not around and you are saying it will be a problem. Because even if you have a chief programmer, you have a deputy. So if the chief programmer is not there, the deputy is there. So what the EC is saying, I don't think is true. Now, number three. Number three is in line with the software. Like as I was saying, if I'm using, let's say, Windows 98, and it is performing my duties for me, I don't think there's a need for a new software. Now, we need to look at from this angle. In a situation whereby you want to introduce a new operating system, you see, it's very dangerous because of the driver's issues. So what is happening is that if you want to introduce a new operating system, for example, you must at least try the operating system with your devices for not less than maybe 2 years. So if you allow the EC to go for a new voters register and they are now going to also implement another operating system, then it will be dangerous for us. It can even happen that by the time that we are voting, the system and the operating system are not even compatible. So if the operating system and the system are not compatible, what are you going to do within the next 11 months? Is it possible? No. It's not possible. So you see, if maybe the EC, as my big brother said, if they need their 10% or something of that sort, they should tell us. Without necessarily looking at the gymnastic behavior to maybe do away with certain things, which are even technical. Now, number 4, I want to talk a little bit about the BVD. You see, the BVD, or the biometric devices, the EC was so wise enough that he wanted to downplay the previous administration. by quoting so many figures, quoting big figures in favor of what? The EC. That you want us to believe that the old one was bad, the cost was too high. But the question is that you cannot compare mangoes with what? Oranges. How can you compare mangoes with oranges? If you are comparing the prices, then we need to also know the system requirements. For example, if the BVD that you are going to buy is having FR or FAR of 0.9, and the old ones are having, let's say, 0.6, and you want to compare the prices, is it logic? It's not logic. So it means if you want to compare, then the EC is supposed to come out with what? A concrete document indicating that these are the requirements for the new biometric devices that you are going to buy and the old biometric devices that we are already having, so that you can do our justification. Other than that, what the EC is saying is not right. Are you getting what I'm trying to put across? Because, as I said, you cannot compare what? Mangoes with what? Oranges. Now, one funny thing is that, let me quote for you. During the per EC's own press conference, it is being indicated clearly that for just ended district level election, 34,843 out of 5,431,902 voted turnout were what? Verified manually. So if you happen to be a mathematician and you strike the percentage wise, we are going to get 0.6. The 0.6 here indicating that the FRR of the biometric device that we are using is what? 0.6. And the the acceptance rate is what? 99.4. So if a biometric device is having a rejection rate of 0.6, which is even less than 1, and the acceptance rate of what? 99.4, then what kind of biometric devices that the EC is going to be? Are you going to get, I don't even know the figure. I don't even know the figure. Because a biometric device is having a rejection rate of 0.6, as my good friend used error margin or something of that sort. He is also talking from maybe different field, but I'm talking from the IT field. So the rejection rate is 0.6, and you are saying it's not good. Then it means maybe the new one that they are going to bring, we are going to have about 120%. Because looking at the amount that the EC is quoting, then the percentage-wise is supposed to be more than 100. Other than that, then you don't need to even go there. So in summary, look at the submission that I have made. Is it logical? No. Is it legal? No. Is it neither logical, illegal? So we all need to fight that you shouldn't accept the new register that they want to bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. So is it technically feasible to have a new voters register? And considering the fact that we have less than 12 months to a major elections, Is it still feasible to have a new voters register? Okay, so we'll take our final presentation. This final presentation is going to be done by someone who likes to be referred to as Comrade, an ace journalist, senior broadcaster, social activist, and our own Uncle Kwesi Pratt Jr. Give it up for him.
Well, comrades and friends, this afternoon we have had a variety of speakers. We've had my own friend and comrade Bernard Mona, astute politician who has given us a political angle. We've also had a financial expert with so many degrees that I lost count, also giving us his angles as well. And then we've had an ICT expert. What do I have to say? Comrades and friends, I'd like to assure you that I have very, very little to say. I like to put everything that has been said into a perspective that makes everything very, very clear for all of us. You know, one of the problems we have in this country is what some have described as political tribalism. It is perhaps one of the most dangerous things that can happen to any country. Political tribalism occurs when matters go before Parliament and the merits of the matters are completely discarded. When matters come before us for decision-making and common sense is thrown out of the window, and everything and anything is simply reduced to a competition between political parties. There are some issues that go beyond the political divide, and this is one of those issues that goes beyond the political divide. We should take positions on this matter not because we are members of the New Patriotic Party. We should take positions on this matter not because we are members of the Convention People's Party. And we should take positions on this matter not because we are members of the Eagle Party or the People's National Convention. We should take positions on this matter simply because it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. That is what we have to do. So the matter we are discussing is contentious, but the contention is between no sense and common sense. The contention is between what works and what does not work. The contention is national integrity and disintegrity in this nation. These are the contentious issues in this matter. Now, comrades, the first time I heard that, in fact, the same day that I heard that the Electoral Commission was planning to foist a new voters register on us, was the same day I read statements by two of the commissioners. And the two commissioners had argued that the voters register is very credible. And I asked myself, if the voters register is very credible, why change something which is credible? And up to today, nobody has provided the answer as to why we should change a very credible register. Indeed, they did not say that the register was credible. They said that the register was very credible. And yet, we are being called upon to spend close to 1 billion Ghana cedis changing something which is credible, for something whose credibility we cannot determine today. This certainly does not fall into the category of common sense. It falls into the category of no sense. Now, comrades, there's a history to this whole debate, and we should not forget that history. It is not the history of the 1940s. It is not the history of the 1920s. It is not the history of the 1800s. It's the history of 2015 and 2016. We cannot forget the history of 2015 and 2016. Now, all of you will recall that the New Patriotic Party came up and said that we needed a new voters register before the last elections. And they argued firstly that if we did not get a new voters register, the elections will be rigged. We went through that election and their president won with a register that we did not change. Did they rig the election? We should not forget that at a certain point in that debate, His Excellency Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia held a press conference and actually indicated that the voter register was full of the names of foreigners, especially coming from Togo. Indeed, he said that they had only done a preliminary verification of the register, and that if they did a lot more work, we will find hundreds of thousands of names of Togolese on our voters register. Alhaji His Excellency the Vice President Bawumia was challenged, and up to today, that evidence has not been provided. Now, it is significant for us also to note that as soon as that evidence was abandoned, a new scheme was hatched. And that new scheme simply said that there were too many names of the voters register which got there using the National Health Insurance card as the base card. And because the National Health Insurance card could be available to any and everybody, the register was not reliable. This matter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a determination, and eventually we had the voters register, which brought His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to power as president. During the 2016 elections, it was obvious to all of us as observers and citizens that the New Patriotic Party was pushing for the compilation of a new voters register. And I had no doubt whatsoever that if the New Patriotic Party won the election, we will have the current situation on our necks. And like magic, we do have that situation now. Now, you may dismiss this point, but please don't, because it's a very important point. Now, listen. We have an electoral commission whose members are publicly and openly showing their hatred for political parties and contestants in the next election. You had a deputy commissioner actually make the point that the NDC cannot be trusted and that the NDC wants to subvert the current democratic order and to plunge this country into chaos. That's a serious statement which has to be looked at and examined in the light of current developments. Because if you actually believe that one of the parties likely to contest the 2020 elections is a virus, that one of the parties has an agenda to destroy Ghana, Why wouldn't you do everything and anything possible to prevent that party from winning elections? So this is the problem. We have a situation in which we cannot vouch for the independence of some of the commissioners. Only recently, there was a debate about the referendum which had been proposed, the December 17th referendum and so on. And again, a member of the commission came out and stated his clear support for the government's position as opposed to the position taken by the opposing parties. Now, if you have these indicators, it is difficult to accept any and everything that the Electoral Commission proposes to do. And I think we should bring this into the conversation. Now, comrades, all of us know the conditions in which we live in Ghana. And I have repeatedly said that there are many people in Ghana today who actually live in the Stone Age, and I'm not exaggerating. If you go to our rural communities, you will find people who actually grind their grains on stone, with stone. You would find people in our communities who walk barefooted to their farms every morning, susceptible to snake bites, to scorpion bites, and so on, who continue to feed us using the cutlass and the hoe. Indeed, you find people in our community who have no electricity and who would never in their lifetime use what we call the blender in our homes. In fact, they cannot even dream about using the blender. This is the condition of our people. There are many workers in Ghana today that they are full pay. If they pay for transportation to work and back home, nothing is left for water, for food, or for anything. There are so many people in our community today who are living on less than 500 cedis a month. The roads in our communities are in a deplorable state. You saw the pictures of the children in what has come to pass for a school, sitting on the bare floor without books, without pencils, without anything. We know the conditions in which our people live. Indeed, all the governments we have had over the last 20 years have told us that the national revenue situation is exceedingly worrisome. Indeed, we are told that between 60 and 70% of national revenue is expended just on paying the salaries of 600,000 workers out of a population of about 30 million. All the borrowing that is being done is because the figures don't add up. This morning, I don't know how many of you have read a story on the front pages of one of our newspapers, which is a rebuttal by the International Monetary Fund of some of the figures that we have been fed with. And they're simply saying that the value of the cedi will continue falling, and that some of the figures presented by the finance minister in the budget are fake figures, and so on. This is the International Monetary Fund. It's not me. And just this morning, it has made that disclosure. So if you have a situation where your revenue doesn't add up, when your deficit is rising, when your local currencies are collapsing and so on, any sensible politician, any sensible public administrator will begin to think about how to make prudent use of our resources. And that is part of this argument. If you have a register which is credible, why spend close to 1 billion Ghana cedis on producing another register when you have all of these problems on your head? It simply doesn't make sense. It doesn't fall into the category of common sense. It falls into the category of no sense. There are many things which should also worry us, and they should worry us very, very deeply. Indeed, if the Electoral Commission had decided that it needed to compile a new voters register, why did we spend so much money on the reopening of the register before coming to do a new register? Because if we wanted to do a new register, we could have done a new register which would have captured all those who were not on the register already. But we did open the register, brought in people onto the register, and now we say we are going to throw it away and do another one. I mean, incredible. Really incredible. But you see, in this country, many incredible things happen. I mean, only a couple of weeks ago, all of us heard that we're going to introduce new denominations of our currency. And everybody was wondering why. Why new denominations? Have some people made so much money that it doesn't fit into their pockets that they want to create new denominations which will be easier for them to carry and so on? But the point is that a few weeks after that, we are now announcing that we are not even going to use the CD anymore. That we are going to use something called Yoko, Echo, or whatever it is. So, comrades, if you are going to use Echo, Yoko, or whatever code, what is the sense in printing more currency when we are going to throw it away? It is that same logic, that same sense, which is feeding into this nonsensical agitation for a new voters register. The technical people have spoken. I do not pretend to be a technical person. But you see, you have less than 10 months to an election. A lot of people think that we are going to have the elections in December, and therefore they think we have 12 months. We don't. The elections will take place on the 7th of December, so you don't have the whole of December. January is virtually gone, and so on. So practically, you have 10 months to an election. There are so many things that happen before elections, and you know them, so I'm not going to repeat them. In this 10-month period, we have decided to compile a new voters register. Of course, if you know the people who are doing these things, sometimes no sense can sound like sense. You know, who are these people doing these things? These are the people who are going to all kinds of fake prophets and fake bishops who are telling them that magic is the art of the possible. You understand? Who are telling us that the act of the impossible is possible. So they are confused. They are totally confused. I want to submit here and now that 10 months is not a sufficient period for compiling a new voters register. And that if we attempt to do it, we will throw the next elections into total chaos. And that, from the point of view of common sense, we should shelve this useless adventure of compiling a new voters register. Then, we have all heard the commissioners and their supporters. And they come to us and they say that, look, the Electoral Commission is an independent body. What does that mean? Nothing is more nonsensical than that claim that the Electoral Commission is an independent body. If you read the 1992 Constitution, the 1992 Constitution surely guarantees the Electoral Commission some measure of independence. That independence is not absolute independence. It is limited independence. It is partial independence. Common sense tells us that you cannot have a public institution which is independent of the peoples whose sovereign authority it exercises. Because if you have a situation where you have a public institution exercising independent authority above the sovereignty of the people, then they are beginning to play God, and that is dangerous for any democratic enterprise. So this Electoral Commission cannot hide about pretensions of independence to go against the will of the people of Ghana. Indeed, the commissioners themselves should remind themselves of how they got into office, because their predecessors were removed from office in spite of their independence. And their predecessors were removed from office because the 1992 Constitution recognizes that other institutions have more power than the commissioners. In Akan, they say that if you don't know death, look at sleep. I am passionately appealing to the commissioners to begin to look at sleep. They should open their eyes and look at sleep, because sleep sometimes resembles death. Comrades, we all went to the polls and voted. At the end of the day, the Electoral Commission declared His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as President of the Republic, and we accepted. And he is President of the Republic. But even the President cannot do as he pleases, much more, much less, those that he appointed. People should end these delusions of grandeur and so on, because they simply don't have that power. They are answerable to us, they will be answerable to us, and if they refuse to be answerable to us, we will remove them from their exalted position. Comrades, I have taken the trouble to look at previous election results. And I'm sure that those of you who have taken the trouble to look at previous election results will appreciate the fact that from 1992 up to today, there has not been any election, the result of which are foolproof. Take it from me and do the examination yourself. There have been many instances where in some regions and constituencies, the number of voters has exceeded the number of registered voters in all of our elections. And I speak the truth. Again, in the 2016 election, something happened. Something happened. We just decided to overlook it. Listen, at the end of the elections, some parliamentary candidates were declared as losers. All of the parliamentary candidates who were declared as losers, who called for a recount of the vote, were eventually declared winners. My question is a very simple one. If the whole election result has been recounted, what would have been the outcome? It's an important question. And I raise this question to emphasize the point that we have accepted election results after election results because of our commitment to peace, because we don't want this country to disintegrate, because we say that no matter what the fault may be with the process, if it is reasonably transparent and so on, we would accept it in order to prevent the Rwandan situation from happening in Ghana, in order to prevent situations elsewhere in the world from happening to Ghana. But let nobody take that for granted. Let nobody assume that we will forever accept every and anything. Because we have come to realize that this our acceptance of every and anything has consequences for all of us. So the time has come for the people of this country to insist on the true representation of the people. The time has come for the people of this country to insist that no rigging in an election is acceptable, even if it constitutes 1% of the process. The time has come for us to insist that all public officials who have been charged with responsibility for conducting elections will do the right thing as we say it, not as they say it. Comrades and friends, as a fact, there have been many occasions when we have said no to aberrations in our political process. There have been many occasions when we have said that things are not being done right. We have demonstrated small, we've held press conferences small, we've done small things, and the authorities have continued to act with impunity. Today, let us all say in one loud voice that that era is over. Let us all make a loud statement that from today, no infraction will be tolerated. Let us make it clear that the people of this country insist on the right things being done, and the right things will be done, or God knows. Comrades, a demonstration has been announced for Tamale on Saturday. This will be the first mass manifestation of protest against the attempt to introduce a new register. And it is our duty as citizens who love our country, irrespective of our political party colors and so on, to fully participate in that demonstration to send a signal that we are not asleep, we are awake, and we are on the side of common sense. A few more demonstrations will be organized across the country. Let us all, in our numbers, participate in those manifestations. But demonstrations are not enough. We should use every and any means at our disposal to get public officials to do what the people of Ghana want. That is what is called accountability. That is what is called accountability. Accountability is for our public officials appointed and elected to do what we want. And if they don't do what we want, to punish them so severely that nobody would ever think of repeating their arrogance. That is accountability. So we should participate in the demonstrations, all right, but it shouldn't end there. We should call into all the radio stations and make our voices heard. We should participate on every platform available and make our voices heard. We should use our Instagram accounts, our Twitter accounts, our Facebook accounts. We should use WhatsApp. We should use anything we have to post this message. Whatever we do, the 2020 elections is an important phase in our struggle. If that elections is conducted freely and fairly, we must accept whoever is declared winner. But if that election is conducted in the koni-koni way we are beginning to see, we will not accept the result. Comrades and friends, this is not rabble-rousing. This is upholding the Constitution, because the Constitution enjoins all of us to make sure that nobody employs any hanky-panky way in assuming power in this country. That's a constitutional injunction. So what I'm saying is that let us uphold the 1992 Constitution and defend it to the hilt. And we can only uphold the 1992 Constitution and defend it to the hilt if we reject imposters, criminals, people who have hanky-panky ways of doing things and so on. I am fully confident that if we organize enough and mobilize enough, the elections will be held on the basis of a true commitment to democracy in this country. And we should accept nothing less, or perhaps nothing more, than total victory for democracy in our country. I thank you all very much.